All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to follow a single bite of food on this pretty incredible journey. We're tracing the path of carbohydrates from your plate right through your body and all the way to becoming the fuel that powers, well, everything. Your thoughts, your movements, your life. It's a journey that happens every single day, but one we rarely stop to think about.
I mean, have you ever really thought about it? How does that pasta, or that piece of fruit, or that slice of bread, how does it actually transform from food you chew into the raw energy that lets you think and work and play? That is exactly what we are going to unpack.
So, let's meet the star of our show, the carbohydrate. Seriously, it's the body's preferred fuel. You can think of it like high-octane gasoline for a race car. Yeah, your body can run on other stuff like fats and proteins, but it runs best, most efficiently, on carbs. Why? Because they're not just fast, they're super versatile, giving you energy for everything from a sudden sprint to just thinking.
Okay, so to really understand their journey, we've got to know who we're dealing with here. Because, not all carbs are created equal. They come in different sizes, different shapes, and that really affects how our body deals with them. The best way to think about this is with Legos. So at the most basic level, you have monosaccharides, like glucose. These are your single individual Lego bricks. Then you have disaccharides, which are just two of those bricks snapped together, like sucrose, which is just table sugar. And finally, you've got polysaccharides, like the starch in a potato. That's a huge, long, complex chain, basically an entire Lego castle. And the whole point of digestion? It's to smash that giant Lego castle all the way back down into those single individual bricks. All right, and that brings us right to the starting line, what I like to call the digestive gauntlet. This is where our Lego castle of carbs starts its pretty challenging journey to get broken down so we can actually use it. So let's map out the path. So here's the game plan. The journey kicks off in the mouth with the very first snips, then it takes a quick pause in the stomach, and then it hits the main stage for digestion, which is the small intestine. Let's start right at the beginning. So, the second you take a bite of something starchy, like bread, the whole process begins. Chewing obviously breaks it down physically, but the real magic starts with an enzyme in your saliva called salivary amylase. It gets to work instantly, snipping those long polysaccharide chains into smaller, much more manageable pieces. Okay, next up, the food hits the stomach. But here's a weird twist. The stomach is so crazy acidic that it just completely shuts down that enzyme from your saliva. So for carbs, the stomach is kind of like a pit stop. The breakdown is basically put on pause while other things, like proteins, get worked on. The real action, the main event, happens in the small intestine. This is where the body calls in the special forces, this team of molecular scissors. The pancreas sends in an enzyme called pancreatic amylase to keep chopping up starches. Then, right on the wall of the intestine, you've got these specialized enzymes, maltase, sucrase, and lactase, that do the final, super precise cuts. Their job is to break everything down into those single Lego bricks we talked about, glucose, fructose, and galactose. Okay, so our carbs have been broken down into these tiny, simple sugars. But now, they've got a new challenge. How do they cross the border from your gut into your bloodstream? It's not as simple as just walking through. They need a special passport and a specific doorway to get in. It turns out they have two different strategies. Glucose and galactose, they use what we'll call the buddy system. They actually have to link up with a sodium ion to get actively pulled into the cell. This takes energy. Fructose, though, it gets a solo pass. It has its own special doorway and just kind of drifts through, from a high concentration to a low one. It's a more passive process. So, two different molecules, two totally distinct ways of getting inside. And once they're across that border, where are they headed? Well, they all jump onto this express train, the hepatic portal vein, which takes them straight to the body's main command center for all things metabolism, the liver. So now our glucose molecule has arrived at this major crossroads. Inside the liver and in our body's cells, a decision has to be made. What do we do with this brand new fuel? Do we burn it right now, or do we save it for later? Essentially, the body has three options for this new glucose. First, if your cells need energy right now, that glucose is sent out to be burned immediately. Second, if you're already fueled up, it gets stored as something called glycogen in your liver and muscles. You can think of this like a readily accessible energy pantry. And third, what if that pantry is totally stuffed? Well, the excess gets converted into fat for long-term storage. So when the body picks that immediate energy option, the very first step is a process called glycolysis. This happens in pretty much every cell in your body, and it's like the initial cracking open of that glucose molecule. This releases a quick, small burst of energy in the form of ATP.
That's the currency our cells use to get anything done. But this first burst is just the appetizer. And this is the main course. After that first step, if the cell has oxygen, it can put that same glucose molecule through the whole shebang, full cellular respiration. And just look at that number. A single molecule of glucose can generate around 32 units of ATP. That is an incredibly efficient biological engine.
Of course, a system this powerful can't just be running wild. It needs some serious regulation to keep our blood sugar levels from going haywire. This is the body's constant, crucial balancing act.
And here are the two managers in charge, insulin and glucagon. Think of them as the yin and yang of blood sugar. After you eat and your blood sugar goes up, insulin, the storer, is released. It goes around telling your cells, hey, open up, time to take in some glucose for energy or storage. Then, when your blood sugar gets low, glucagon, the releaser, steps in. It tells the liver, okay, time to break down some of those stored snacks and release glucose back into the blood. It's this perfect push and pull system.
And you can see just how critical this balancing act is when you look at what happens when it breaks down. If you're missing that lactase enzyme, one of our key molecular scissors, the result is lactose intolerance. And if there's a problem with insulin, our storer hormone, well, the consequence can be diabetes. It really just shows you how vital every single step in this process is for our health. When you step back and look at the whole thing, from chewing to cellular energy, you realize it truly is a highly coordinated and essential physiological process. It's not just a series of random events. It's a beautifully designed system that has evolved over millions of years to turn the food we eat into life itself. So, the next time you eat, remember this incredible, microscopic journey that's taking place inside you. From a simple potato to the complex brain power it provides, this whole complex system is just waiting to be fueled. The only question left is, how are you going to choose to fuel it?